Good evening. We'll start in about 10-15 seconds, as soon as I get my act together, which hasn't been done in many years. Good evening. It's 7 o'clock here in the northeast of the United States, and this is the Tibet Center, Kunchab Tarduling, a Buddhist meditation and study center located in New York City and northern New Jersey under the direction of His Eminence Chabje Ling Rinpoche, and also under the direction of Rato Kenser Tupten Lundup, also known as Geshenki. This is our twice weekly presentation of the Buddha Dharma, and tonight you have a real treat. But I won't tell you yet, to keep the suspense going. It's just me saying different, reading different things. All the prayers we say are on the website. Scroll down in the FAQ section, scroll down to prayers. If you wish us to pray for someone who has recently deceased, put their names in the chat box as soon as possible. And again, I mentioned I don't see the entire chat box, but if I don't mention the name, that doesn't mean that the others haven't seen it. So we will start. Anything else I have to mention? No. Prayer for the spreading of the teachings throughout the length and breadth of the West. By the way, yes, I do have to say something. You have to tag the broadcast now. So we're doing the Lam Rim Volume 3, Chapter 13, called Valid Establishment. In other words, how do you validly establish conventional reality? That's all. So I have to try to do that because we're recording these and we want to classify them and tag them according to topic. Prayer for the spreading of the teachings. By the force of the blessings of the non-fallacious three precious gems and of the truth of our pure selfless wishes, may the precious Buddhist teachings flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West. For all the people living here, together with their near ones who have engaged in the teachings and have faith and respect for them, may all conditions adverse to their practice of the pure Dharma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon. And especially for those who work on methods to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the victorious one's teachings, which are the source of benefit and happiness, may they never be oppressed by masses of interference and adverse conditions, and may this spontaneously happen just as we have hoped and wished. The Heart Sutra. Thus have I heard once. The Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of the Vulture Peak Mountain together with a big gathering of great monks and great bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the samadhi which examines the Dharmas called profound illumination, and at the same time noble Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva, mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, how should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge? And Avalokiteshvara answered, Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this, seeing the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Form is empty. Emptiness itself is form. Emptiness is not separate from form. Form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating awareness, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Thus all the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no composition, no factors, no consciousness. No eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no objects of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of hearing, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nidanas from ignorance, old age, and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. I'll check the light on this, get a little better. Okay. Therefore, since there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent knowledge, and since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. They transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future by means of transcendent knowledge, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for there is no deception. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is proclaimed Tayata Om, Gate Gate Para, Sam Gate Bodhisoha. O Shariputra, this is how a bodhisattva mahasattva should learn profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised the bodhisattva mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family, profound, transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering in the world with its gods, humans, Asuras, and Gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praised the words of the Blessed One. Refuge in Bodhisattva vow, which of course we say 3 times. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge through the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Enthused by wisdom and compassion today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind for full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Enthused by wisdom and compassion today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind for full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Enthused by wisdom and compassion today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind for full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. May all the pains of living creatures ripen solely upon myself, and through the might of the Bodhisattva Sangha, may all beings experience happiness. May the teachings which are the sole medicine for suffering and the origin of every joy be materially supported and honored and abide for a very long time. I prostrate to Manjagosha, through whose kindness wholesome minds ensue, and I prostrate to my spiritual masters, through whose kindness I develop. And now, as a cause for the swift return of Rato Chenmo Rinpoche, His Holiness has composed this prayer, which we recite whenever we come together, a prayer for a swift return. Exalted wisdom of all victors gathered in a drop, sole refuge manifest in the form of the one wearing saffron robes, Guru Lozang Tabuang Doje Chang, please bear witness here today that our prayers may be fulfilled. We beseech the great torch of doctrine, accomplishing from long ago the vast waves of aspirational prayers, Lord of speech of the Victor Losang's teachings, spreading them to the ends of the earth by means of explanation and practice. Though holding the commitment, I will invite all beings to be my guests in unsurpassed, great awakening. Yet you have withdrawn the activities of the form body that serves the welfare of others. Is that worthy of the supreme among beings, the Bodhisattvas? Though impossible for you till cyclic existence's end to abandon your commitment to liberate all beings, we beseech the new son of Nirmanakaya to swiftly return from the realm of Dharmakaya, brought forth by bodhicitta drawn by 7 steeds. Having reached the far limits of scholarship, religious life, and goodness, please come swiftly as an unrivaled supreme emanation, full holder of the sage's teachings and wish-fulfilling jewel, return as the glory of Losang Tempe. Magnificent truth of the 3 precious jewels, Mahakala, Karmayama, and Sri Mata Devi, and the ocean of Dharma protectors, may you spontaneously fulfill our wish, the swift blossoming of the reincarnation's fresh moonlight face. So let's see if we're going out. I guess we are. I hear it in back. Okay. All right, this is good. You never know with Facebook. You're talking to no one or whatever. Okay. So, as I said, something special. Again, from Korean Buddhism, looking into... And now we're going back to ancient Korean Buddhism. 1100s, 1200s. One of the pivotal people in that tradition is a man called Chinul, a Lama called Chinul, Chinul. He died in 1210, so was active like when he was born, I don't know. Ta Hui was his teacher. I think he was from. It doesn't say. Okay. It does say, but I didn't look it up carefully because my 11. There was a He's sort of like a bedrock of Korean Buddhism. It's like he reformed it somewhat as Tsong-kha-pa reformed Yellow Hat sect in Tibet. He went to study. He was 1158 to 1210. Okay, I got his dates here. He went to study, and he was like studied all the curriculum that they did in those days. And he and a few of the students said, you know, this is too much academics. When we pass our courses, why don't we get together when finally years from now and form our own little monastery dedicated to practice? You know, it was the usual Zen thing of you learn enough and then you cut to the basics. So won't read the whole thing because it's kind of long. He had a book called Chinol's Secrets on Cultivating the Mind, and it's a very seminal text. It's an outline of the basic Sun practices, S-O-N, the Sun school of of Korean, excuse me, Zen practice. The background is boring, but we're going to get to real good stuff now. You won't find a difference between this and what we're studying now. You won't find a difference between his presentation and what's presented in the Heart Sutra. Some very good stories to back up the teachings. I'm reading from page 94. I'm starting on page 94 of this book called Thousand Peaks, Korean Zen Tradition and Teachers. It's an old book because only $14. What book is $14 now? It's not that old. It's probably turn of the century. But 1991 revised. So, yeah, 30 years old, 32, 33. So, cultivating the mind. It's his basic. So here's excerpts from that. The triple world is blazing in defilement as if it were a house on fire. Samsara, you know. How can you bear to tarry here and complacently undergo such long suffering? If you wish to avoid wandering in samsara, there is no better way than to seek Buddhahood. Okay. If you want to become a Buddha, understand that Buddha is the mind. And here's the bomb. Buddha is the mind. Does this sound familiar? Mahamudra's teachings, Dzogchen teachings, other Zen teachings. How can you search for the mind in the far distance? It is not outside the body. The physical body is a phantom, for it is subject to birth and death. The true mind is like space, for it neither ends nor changes. The true mind, not the everyday chattering mind. Therefore it says, these 100 bones will crumble and return to fire and wind, but one thing is eternally numinous and covers heaven and earth, the mind. It is tragic, he says. People have been deluded for so long. They do not recognize that their own minds are the true Buddhas. I don't. So they do not recognize that their own natures are the true Dharma. They want to search for the Dharma, yet they look far away for the holy ones. They still look far away for the Holy One. They want to search for the Buddha, yet they will not observe their own minds. Remember the Zen statement, if you see a Buddha, kill him? External Buddha. No, internal. If they aspire to the path of Buddhahood, while obstinately holding to their feeling that the Buddha is outside the mind or the Dharma is outside the nature, then, even though they pass through kalpas as numerous as dust motes, burning their bodies, charring their arms, crushing their bones, and exposing their marrow, or else write sutras with their own blood, never lying down to sleep, eating only one offering a day at the hour of the hare, between 5 and 7 a.m., whatever that means, the hour of the rabbit, or even studying through the entire Tripitaka and cultivating all sorts of ascetic practices. It is like trying to make rice by boiling sand. You got to look internally. It will only add to their tribulation. If they would only understand their own minds, then, without searching, approaches to Dharma as numerous as the sands of the Ganges and uncountable sublime meanings would all be understood. As the world-honored one had said, this is Buddha, he's talking, the world-honored one, I see that all sentient beings everywhere are endowed with the Tathagata's wisdom and virtue. This should call to mind the Buddha nature, the sublime continuum, Gyu Lama they call it in Tibet, Uttara Tantra, that's it. Same thing, we all have the Buddha nature. He also said, all the illusory guises which sentient beings appear to take shape in the sublime mind of the Tathagata is take shape. All of these take shape in the sublime mind of the Tathagata's complete enlightenment. So all these manifestations of different beings take place in the Buddha's mind. The Tathagata's complete enlightenment. Consequently, you should know that outside this mind there is no Buddhahood which can be attained. All the Buddhas of the past were merely persons who understood their minds. All the sages and saints of the present are likewise merely persons who have cultivated their minds. All future meditators should rely on this Dharma as well. I hope that you, who cultivate the path, will never search outside. The nature of the mind is unstained, our pure nature. So we hear this all the time. It is originally whole and complete in itself. If you will only leave behind the false conditioning, you will be such, or we say suchness, like the Buddha. Like such, as such. Now, questions from the audience, okay? Question. If you say that the Buddha nature exists in the body right now, then, since it is in the body, it is not separate from us ordinary men. So why can we not see this Buddha nature right now? Please explain this further to enlighten us on this point. A nice question, comes to the point. Chenmo answers, it is in your body, but you do not see it. Ultimately, what is that thing which during the 12 periods of the day knows hunger and thirst, cold and heat, anger and joy? This physical body is a synthesis of 4 conditions: earth, water, fire, and wind. That's how they classify the body in the 4 basic elements, which sounds simple, but they're not. Water is cohesion, earth is solidity. There's reasons for these. It's not that simple of a presentation. This physical body is a simple, since the 4 conditions, I said, since matter is passive and insentient, how can it see, hear, sense, and know? The elements can. That which is able to see, hear, sense, and know is perforce your Buddha nature. For this reason, Lin Chi said, I don't know who he is, but the 4 great elements do not know how to expound Dharma or to listen to Dharma. Empty space does not know how to expound Dharma or listen to Dharma. It is only that formless thing before eyes, clear and bright of itself, which knows how to expound Dharma or listen to Dharma. This, quote, formless thing is the Dharma seal of all Buddhas. It is your original mind. Since this Buddha nature exists in your body right now, why do you vainly search for it outside? We have a visitor. Question. Sorry, the distraction of the bell. Question. You talked about seeing the nature. But when there is true seeing of the nature, the person becomes an enlightened saint and should be able to perform magic and miracles. Well, here's somebody looking at the mundane part. He would be different from other people. How is it then that among those who cultivate the mind nowadays, not one can display these spiritual powers and transformation bodies? So all these people are supposed to be Buddha. Where are the miracles? Where are they? Come on, show us them. What's the problem? Okay. Chenmo says, okay, why are you asking? In other words, putting down a little for that question. You should not utter absurdities lightly. To be unable to differentiate the perverse form from the noble is to be deluded and confused. Nowadays, you people who are training on the path chat about truth with your mouth, but in your minds, you only shrink from it and end up falling into the error of underestimating yourselves by thinking that you do not share in the Buddha nature. Is this us? I think so. This is all that you are doubting. You train on the path, but do not know the proper sequence of practice. That's why we have the Lamrim, proper sequence of practice. This is called wrong view. It is not called cultivation. You are not only deceiving yourselves, you are deceiving others too. How can you not be on your guard against this? Wake up. Now, there are many approaches to the path, but essentially they are included in the twofold approach of sudden awakening and gradual cultivation. Sudden awakening / gradual cultivation. It needs explanation. Although sudden awakening / sudden cultivation has been advocated, This is the entrance for people of the highest faculties. If you were to probe their pasts, you would see that their cultivation has been based for many lives on the insight gained in a previous awakening. Now in this life, after gradual permeation, these people hear the Dharma and awaken. In one instant, their practice is brought to a sudden conclusion. But if we try to explain this according to the facts, then sudden awakening / sudden cultivation is also the result of an initial awakening and its subsequent cultivation. You have a flash of reality, like the first moment of seeing. That doesn't get you out of samsara. It has to be stronger and stronger. So we would explain it that way, the path of seeing. You become an Arya, but not an Arhat yet. See? Consequently, this twofold approach of sudden awakening and gradual cultivation is the track followed by thousands of saints. Hence, all the saints of old, there were none who did not first have an awakening, subsequently cultivate it, and finally, because of their cultivation, gain realization. The so-called magic and miracles you mentioned manifest because of the gradual permeation of cultivation based on an initial awakening. It should not be said that they appear simultaneous with that awakening, the initial flash of reality. As it is said in the sutras, the noumenon is awakened to suddenly. The noumenon is awakened to suddenly. Noumenon basically is something you don't see with the senses. Phenomenon you see with senses. Noumenon is the background, something like what we mean by emptiness. Strange. That's a stretch because the definitions in Webster and everything else don't understand the Buddhist view, but we'll leave it at this. So, the noumenon is awakened too suddenly and is forged in accordance with this awakening. Phenomena cannot be removed suddenly. They are brought to an end step by step. For this reason, Kui Feng, in a profound explanation of the meaning of initial awakening / subsequent cultivation, said, and this is very good. This is a way of explaining that whole blah, blah, blah with a nice example. Kui Feng, I don't know who he is, but he's now a friend of mine because he gives good advice. He says, although we know that a frozen pond is entirely water, that the sun's heat is necessary to melt it. We know it's water, but not now. Although we awaken to the fact that an ordinary man is Buddha, the power of Dharma is necessary to make it permeate our cultivation. When that pond has melted, the water flows freely and can be used for irrigation and cleaning. When falsity is extinguished, the mind will be numinous and dynamic, and then its function of penetrating brightness will manifest. Nicely said. We check time so we don't go over. These questions should make it clear that the ability to perform magic and miracles in the phenomenal sphere cannot be perfected in a day. It will manifest only after gradual permeation, soaking in deeper understanding of reality. Moreover, in the case of accomplished men, he's using the masculine pronoun all the time, masculine. I'll leave it at that rather than get confused, changing it to person or he, she, back and forth. But he was talking to monks, so... Moreover, in the case of accomplished men, phenomenal spiritual powers are like an eerie apparition. They are only a minor concern of the saints. Miraculous powers, no big thing. We've heard this from the Tibetan lamas. Although they might perform them, they do not give them undue emphasis. Nowadays, deluded and ignorant people wrongly assume that in one moment of awakening, incalculable, sublime functions as well as magic and miracles manifest in tandem. This is the sort of understanding I was referring to when I said that you did not know the proper sequence of practice and did not distinguish the root from the branches. All right, a Buddha is different, a full Buddha, yes. As soon as that person's a full Buddha, everything is there. And high bodhisattvas too. But the initial view of emptiness, the path of seeing, the initial start of it, you're still not out of samsara. You know? You have to, they call permeate, is that idea has to permeate into you. So, to seek the path of Buddha, while not knowing the proper sequence of practice or the root and branches, is like trying to put a square peg in a round hole. Can this be anything but a grave mistake? Because such people do not know of any expedience, they hesitate, as if they were facing a steep precipice and end up backsliding. Alas, many have broken their ties with the spiritual family of the Buddha in this manner, since they neither understand for themselves nor believe that others have had an understanding-awakening. When they see some without spiritual powers, they act insolently, ridiculing the sages and insulting the saints. This is really quite pitiful. So if you're judging people by they perform miracles or not, go back to school, really. Question! Someone's asking a question. Who? Oh, I see you. You have said that this twofold approach of sudden awakening / gradual cultivation is the track followed by thousands of saints. But if awakening is really sudden awakening, what need is there for gradual cultivation? And if cultivation means gradual cultivation, how can you speak of sudden awakening? So make up your mind. These things sound, and I think that way too. So, we hope that you will expound further on these two ideas of sudden and gradual resolve. Sudden and gradual, what's the difference between them? And resolve our doubts. Okay, so Chenmo says, okay, first let us take sudden awakening. When the ordinary man is deluded, he assumes that the four great elements are his body and the false thoughts are his mind. We don't know what a mind is. He does not know that his own nature is the true Dharma body. He does not know that his own luminous awareness is the true Buddha, the awareness. We'll talk about that a little later, because it's a very important theme that we have to keep covering in our meditation. He looks for the Buddha outside his mind. While he is thus wandering aimlessly, the entrance to the road might by chance be pointed out by a wise advisor. If in one thought he then follows back the light of his mind and its source and sees its original nature, he will discover that the ground of this nature is innately free of defilement, and that he himself is originally endowed with non-outflow wisdom nature, which is not a hair's breadth different from that of the Buddhas. Hence it is called sudden awakening. They realize the similarity of their Buddha nature with the mind of the Buddha. They're not Buddhas yet, but that's what he's calling sudden. Now let us consider gradual cultivation. Have a seat. Relax. Although he has awakened to the fact that his original nature is no different from that of the Buddhas, the beginningless habit energies are extremely difficult to remove suddenly, and so he must continue to cultivate while relying on his awakening. Here we go. Very similar to our situation, the Lam. You have an initial understanding, maybe a first glimpse of emptiness. You still see inherent existence. You still have all those imprints and habit patterns of inherent existence appearing to you. You're not out of samsara, you're not a Buddha. They're still there. So you have that awakening. Yes, I really do have Buddha nature. You can't leave it at that. As he said, people leave it at that and fall back. So then in a future life, you probably pick it up again when you get awakened by a Buddha showing up and realizing who you are. The cat is torturing one of our students. You all right? Shall I call a doctor? They don't work at night. So these things are there. These habit patterns from billions of eons or whatever were supposed to be very, very way back. We can't even find their beginning. So you have to understand these things don't go away like that. Through this gradual permeation, his endeavors reach completely. He constantly nurtures the sacred embryo, he's calling it, and after a long time he becomes a saint. Hence it is called gradual cultivation. So this person continues. The path of seeing leads to the path of meditation, which is very long. Then the path of no more learning, Buddhahood. Now, very long if you don't practice Tantra, so they say. He's not mentioning Tantra at all. I don't know what he knew or not knew. Don't know. This process, he continues, this process can be compared to the maturation of a child. From the day of its birth, here's a very well said, orchestrated example. The process can be compared to the maturation of a child. Okay, from the day of its birth, a baby is endowed with all sense organs like everybody else. But its strength is not yet fully developed. It is only after many months and years that will finally become an adult. You got it? So we have these things, like baby has eyes, ears, etc. Can't put them to use properly, though. So here's a question. Through what expedience is it possible to trace back the radiance of one's sense faculties in one thought and awaken to the self-nature? And his answer is, instead of being a snotty answer, he goes right to the point. The self nature is just your own mind. What other expedients do you need? If you ask for expedience to seek understanding, you are like a person who, because he does not see his own eyes, assumes that he has no eyes and decides to find some way to see. But since he does have eyes, how else is he supposed to see? If he realizes that in fact he has never lost his eyes, this is the same as seeing his eyes, and no longer would he waste his time trying to find a way to see. How then could he have any thoughts that he could not see? Your own numinous awareness is exactly the same. The Rigpa, they would call it, some sects of Tibetan Buddhism, your awareness. A lot of names it has in different traditions. Your own numinous awareness is exactly the same. Since this awareness is your own mind, how else are you going to understand? If you seek some other way to understand, you will never understand. Simply by knowing that there is no other way to understand, you are seeing the nature. Question. When the superior man hears the Dharma, he understands easily. Average and inferior men, however, are not without doubt and confusion. Could you describe some expedients so that the deluded too can enter into enlightenment? And Chenmo says right away, the path is not related to knowing or not knowing. Think of that. You should get rid of the mind which clings to its delusion and looks forward to enlightenment, and listen to me. Since all dharmas are like dreams or phantoms, deluded thoughts are originally calm and the sense spheres are originally void. You'll hear echoes of Dzogchen here and Mahamudra right here. At the point where all dharmas are void, the numinous awareness is not obscured. That is to say, this mind of void and calm, numinous awareness, is your original face. It is also the Dharma seal transmitted without a break by all the Buddhas of the three time periods, the successive generations of patriarchs, and the wise advisors of the world. If you awaken to this mind, then this is truly what is called not following the rungs of a ladder. You climb straight to the stage of Buddhahood, and each step transcends the triple world. Returning home, your doubts will be instantly resolved, and you will become a teacher of men and gods. Endowed with compassion and wisdom, and complete in the twofold benefit, you will be worthy of receiving the offerings of men and gods. Day after day, you can use 10,000 taels of gold without incurring debt. If you can do this, you'll be truly a great man who has indeed finished the task of this life. Well, the person not impressed by this says, well, in our case, what is this mind of void and calm? Numinous awareness. What is that? I'll talk a little bit about it quickly, but let's see what he says. What has just asked me this question is precisely your mind of void and calm, numinous awareness. Nothing's working without that underlying awareness. Why not trace back its radiance rather than search for it outside? Why not trace back, for your benefit rather? I will now point straight to your original mind so that you can see, you can awaken to it. Clear your minds and listen to my words. Let's see what we got. How much time? From morning to evening, throughout the 12 periods of the day, during all your actions and activities, whether seeing, hearing, laughing, talking, whether angry or happy, whether doing good or evil, ultimately, who is that is able to form these actions? Speak. If you say that it is the physical body which is acting, and then at the moment when a man's life comes to an end, even though the body has not yet decayed, how is it that the eyes cannot see, the ears cannot hear, the nose cannot smell, the tongue cannot talk, the body can't move, the hands can't grasp, and the feet can't run? What happens when what's left the body that now nothing works? You should know that what is capable of seeing, hearing, moving, and acting has to be your original mind. It is not your physical body. Furthermore, the four elements which make up the physical body are by nature void. They are like images in a mirror or the moon's reflection in water. How can they be clear and constantly aware, always bright and never obscured, and, upon activation, be able to put into operation sublime functions as numerous as the sands of Ganges? For this reason, it is said drawing water and carrying firewood are spiritual powers and sublime functions. That underlying awareness is always working. It's always there, even when you're in defilement. There are many points at which to enter the noumenon. I will indicate one approach which will allow you to return to the source. Do you hear the sound of that crow cawing and magpie calling? Yes. Trace them back and listen to your hearing nature. Do you hear any sounds? The student says, at that place, sounds and discriminations are not do not obtain. Chinul says, marvelous, marvelous. That is Avalokiteshvara's method for entering the Numan. Let me ask you again. You said that sounds and discrimination do not obtain at that place, but since they do not obtain, isn't the hearing nature just empty space at such a time? The student says, a real smart guy, originally it is not empty. It is always bright and never obscured. And Chinul said, what is this empty? What is this essence which is not empty? The student says, as it has no form or shape, words can't describe it. Chinul said, this is the life force of all the Buddhas and patriarchs. Have no further doubts about that. Since it has no form or shape, how can it be large or small? This makes a lot of these enigmatic statements now make sense. It can't be large or small. Since it cannot be large or small, how can it have limitations? Since it has no limitations, it cannot have inside or outside. Since there is no inside or outside, there is no far or near, and as there is no far or near, there is no here or there. As there is no here or there is no coming or going. Echoes Nagarjuna, all this. Same thoughts. Amazing. As there is no coming or going, there's no birth or death. As there is no birth or death, there is no past or present. As there is no past or present, there is no delusion or awakening. As there is no delusion or awakening, there is no ordinary man or saint. As there is no ordinary man or saint, there is no purity or impurity. Since there is no impurity or purity, there is no right or wrong. Since there is no right or wrong, names and words do not apply to us. This is in the realm of the pristine mind. We're talking, not everyday mind, no. Everyday walking around, there's good and bad. Read the paper, look on the web, whatever you do now. Since none of these concepts apply, all sense bases and sense objects, all deluded thoughts, even forms and shapes and names and words are all inapplicable. Hence, how can it be anything but originally void and calm and originally no thing? The Zen way of talking. So we'll stop it at there because I just want to say a little bit about awareness and how you can find it. You can do a meditation. What is he talking about, awareness? We have to find it ourselves. You can do a meditation, you're watching an object, watch the breath, watch the breath. To go beyond that, and it's hard. What is it that's watching the breath? Concentrate on the object of your meditation, but on the awareness. We're aware, we're always aware, no matter what we're doing. Have to bring that up to a more prominent spot. It's always in the background, where we can examine it and work through it. That's working back to the original mind. So these words, awareness, original clear light, all these things, they're different definitions, and I don't want to mention them as if they're all the same. They're differently expressed because of different situations. But there is an awareness that's always with us, always has been. It doesn't die. The mind is not physical, it doesn't die. It has always been around. We got to tap into that. Otherwise, what's the future? You do good deeds, you get a good rebirth in the realm of the gods. You get jaded, you start fights. No. You want to get out of samsara. You want to become a Buddha to help everybody else get out. That's the idea. But there's a lot of meditative exercises you can look at from other teachers that talk this. The Mahamudra teachers, the Dzogchen teachers, all these basic Zen teachers talk about different names, different terms, talking about returning to the watcher. Sometimes they call it the watcher. That's watching the breath, doing this, watching something like that. But it's a complicated topic. I am not qualified to talk about it. I'm just mentioning it a little so we don't get over confused. And to clear up my own ignorant mind, which needs a lot of work. Anyway, return to the Lam Rim. We're going to chapter 13 of Lam Rim number 3. And this is called Valid Establishment. And the same dollar is there where we left it. Nobody broke into my house and stole the dollar. You'd be better off reading the book, and they really become rich. The chapter is about, again, the fight between the two ways of seeing things, of analyzing things. A conventional, ordinary analysis. You want to buy something, this looks better than that, stronger, the monetary calculation. Examining each thing for its conventional status. That kind of mind that does that isn't qualified to look for the underlying reality of the thing. So why do we have to look at the underlying reality? Because that's why we suffer. Hello. That's why I suffer anyway. So that's the idea. And this chapter is talking about that back and forth about, we see this, we see that, etc. But let's pick it up. I left it at page 164. The commentary following the explanation of the middle way. First, top of the page almost. Because mere visual consciousnesses, this is Chandrakirti says, because mere visual consciousnesses and such would ascertain reality, it would be fruitless to work at ethics or to study, reflect, and meditate in order to understand the noble path. If conventional analysis, the way you look at the best house, the best car, the best pair of shoes, etc., was enough to plumb to ultimate reality, why do we have to study the path? Everybody could do it then. Everybody knows how to tie their shoe, practically would know ultimate reality. No, that kind of thinking has to be gone beyond. It's valid. You don't throw it out. We need it. But there's something more than that to understand reality. That's all he's saying. So it would be fruitless to work at ethics or study, reflect, and meditate in order to understand the noble path. However, this is not the case. Because the world is not valid in any way, the world has no critique in the context of reality. Chandrakirti says. Also, Chandrakirti's commentary on Nagarjuna's 60 Standards says, to view these forms and such as simply existing is not to see reality. In order to establish this, the Bhagavan said, the eye, ear, and nose consciousnesses are not valid cognitions. Not valid cognitions for what? I know it tastes good. I know it smells good. No, for ultimate reality. That's what he means. He doesn't say it explicitly, so you have to have the background to know this. That's all. Since Chandrakirti cites such a scripture, Tsong-kha-pa says, it is extremely clear that what he refutes is that visual consciousnesses and such are valid with regard to a special. He refutes, that word refutes, that these consciousnesses are valid with regard to a special object reality. They're not valid for reality. And not that they are valid with regard to other objects. He didn't say they're no good for sussing things out. Right? That's the idea they're going to constantly repeat and I'll beat you over the head with. So you can return to your refrigerator now for refreshment or whatever. Stoke up your bong, I don't know, whatever you want to do. He continues, it is not taken in this way. If it is not taken in this way, his statements would be inconsistent. Suppose Chandrakirti said, or meant, if visual consciousnesses and such were valid regarding the conventional objects such as forms and sounds, then it would observably follow that there is no need to strive at the noble path in order to perceive reality. Restating the same thing. This would be as senseless as saying that if visual consciousness is aware of form, it follows that the ear is not needed to hear sounds. Each has their own sphere of authority. On the other hand, suppose he meant, if the visual consciousnesses were valid with regard to forms, then it would observably follow that it is pointless to strive at the noble path in order to perceive things such as forms and sounds. We completely agree with this. So what unwanted absurdity does it demonstrate? He's saying, we agree that it would be pointless if you could see reality with normal mind. Good luck, Darren.
Thanks.
Question. Chandrakirti's commentary on the 400 stanza says he's being questioned now, and they're coming up with quotes to back up their false or the misguided arguments. It is quite inconsistent to call sensory consciousness perception and also consider it valued with regard to other things. As the world sees it, a valid cognition is simply a non-deceptive consciousness. What does that mean? If you have hepatitis and you see everything yellow, that's not valid. But if you have normal sight and you see like the snow is white, it's not yellow. Okay, that's a valid. That's what they mean. A non-diseased or something, a non-injured sense power, something like that. However, the Bhagavan said even consciousness, because it is composite, has a false and deceptive quality and is like a magician's illusion. That which has a false and deceptive quality is like a magician's illusion, and is like a magician's illusion, is not non-deceptive because it exists in one way but appears in another. So deception is like if it exists one way and it appears in another, it's not true. So it is not right to designate such as a valid cognition because it would then observably follow that all consciousnesses would be valid cognitions. How do you interpret this general refutation of the position that visual consciousness and such are valid cognitions? Unlike the passage, eye, ear, and nose are not valid, this passage has been a source of grave doubt. Therefore, I will explain it in detail. But the same points are applying. This refutation of the position that the visual consciousness and such are both perceptions and valid cognitions is a refutation of the assertions of the logicians. Therefore, let us start by considering what they assert. This is thick, this is deep, but try to follow it. It's healthy. You'll feel better. Because these logicians are utterly unpracticed in the sensibilities of the world, you must train them from the very beginning like they are young children. He's criticizing. They don't. Hence, in order to teach them, you question them closely, asking, what is a perception in your system? They answer, a consciousness is a perception. Oh, what sort of consciousness? One that is free from conceptuality. Oh, what is this conceptuality? It is the fluctuation of the discrimination that is involved in the superimposition of names and types to objects. A lot of words. Because they are free from that, the five sensory consciousnesses engage only in the inexpressible intrinsic character of their objects and not that letting their guard down. And therefore they are called perceptions. It sees, and since it sees without thinking, without concept, it sees reality. No, no, I'm sorry. Hence, the logicians hold that a perception is a consciousness that is free from conceptuality and non-mistaken. And they mean non-mistaken with regard to ultimate reality. It is non-mistaken in that it apprehends the intrinsic character of the object just as it is, and they think there's intrinsic nature. Shame on them. Send them to me later. Thus, since all five sensory perceptions comprehend the intrinsic character of their objects, the intrinsic characteristics of forms, sounds, and so forth, are the objects comprehended by those five perceptions. Yeah, the eye sees inherent existence mixed with conventionality. The ear hears an inherently existent sound, and we react accordingly. That's what they're saying here. All right, let's go on. Therefore, it is in relation to the intrinsic character of these five objects that they consider such perception to be valid. This sees the intrinsic character, it should be valid. There's no intrinsic character, guys. What? Yeah. Well, let's see. As we will explain, the Master Chandrakirti does not accept even conventionally that anything exists essentially or by way of its intrinsic character. It just ain't there, so don't even bother. It's not there. Go look for it. The non-finding is emptiness. Okay. So, thus, how could he accept this claim that the sensory consciousnesses are valid with regard to the intrinsic character of their objects, since there isn't any intrinsic character? Okay. Therefore, this refutation of the claim that sensory consciousnesses are valid is a refutation of the view that they are valid with regard to the intrinsic character of the five objects. This refutation is made by way of the Bhagavan's statement that consciousness is false and deceptive. The statement that it is deceptive refutes being non-deceptive, and this in turn refutes its validity because that which is non-deceptive is the definition of valid cognition. In what sense is it deceptive? As Chandrakirti puts it, it exists in one way but appears in the other. These things we're looking at exist one way. They appear as if they're inherently existent, but they don't really exist inherently. Nothing does. That's the big fight. On and on and on. Why is it important? Because that's what we automatically see when we look around here, when we listen, smell, etc. Intrinsic nature is all over us. And we got to get rid of the assent to that so we don't suffer. That's all. As Chandrakirti puts it was this way, blah, blah. This means that five objects, forms, sounds, and so forth are not established by way of their intrinsic character, but appear to the sensory consciousnesses as if they were. Now, someone who knows there's no intrinsic character, but he sees, even unless they're full Buddhas, actually will see this appearance of intrinsic. No, it's not that way. And the average person doesn't even know there's an underlying reality. Therefore, these sensory consciousnesses are not valid with regard to the intrinsic character of their object. End of story. Punto final. Whatever. In brief, what Chandrakirti intended in this passage is that the sensory consciousnesses are not valid with regard to the intrinsic character of the five objects because they are deceived in relation to the appearance of intrinsic character. There's an appearance of intrinsic character there. We have to look at this. How do we see things as intrinsic? And what does that mean? Right now, these are just words, but we have to sort of say, what the hell is intrinsic nature? And why is it not there? We have to slowly bring our own minds, put it in our own words that way, so to get some more understanding. yet appear to have it. They look like it. For example, it's like a consciousness that perceives two moons. And the other people, on this point, the essentialists claim that if forms, sounds, and so on did not exist intrinsically, that is, were not established by way of their intrinsic character, they would be non-things devoid of all capacity to perform functions. Same old argument dragged out again. They therefore assert that if the sensory consciousnesses are not valid perceptual cognitions of the intrinsic character of the five objects, then there can be no valid cognitions of the five objects. If the sensory consciousnesses are valid cognition of the five objects, then they will be valid cognitions of the intrinsic character of these objects. You keep banging that same drum. It's boring. So we'll leave it at that. I better mark the page so I don't repeat. We'll probably hit Geshe Sopa before we go back to this on that same passage, so maybe get it again. Quickly, for whom will we pray for? Where is my, let's see. Good evening, good evening, a lot of good evenings, no names. I want names. Not many names. I don't see many, but there are so many people we can pray for who have passed away. Don't forget Julian Lodge's father, Mario Lodge, among others. I prostrate to the omniscient one. Thus the Buddha, Bhagavad Tathagata, Arahat Samyak Sang Buddha, the learned and virtuous one, the Sugata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans, is the Buddha Bhagavat. The Tathagata is in accord with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He is completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis of the treasures of merit. He is adorned with the minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing him, he is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those who long with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strengths cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the city of nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He's not stained by the realm of desire. He's not stained by the realm of form. He's not affected by the formless realm. He is completely liberated from suffering. He is completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not possessed with dhatus. His ayatanas are controlled. He has completely cut the knots. He is completely liberated from extreme torment. He is liberated from craving. He has crossed over the river. He is perfected in all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavats who arise in the past, present, and future. He does not abide in nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection. He dwells on the bhumi where he sees all sentient beings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavat. The holy Dharma is good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent. Its words are excellent. It is uncorrupted. It is completely perfect and completely pure. It completely purifies. The Bhagavat teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is free from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further. It directs one further. Seeing it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma, which is taught by the Bhagavat, is revealed properly in the Vinaya. It is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy. It is trustworthy and puts an end to the journey. As for the Sangha of the great Jnana, they enter completely. They enter enter insightfully. They enter straightforwardly. They enter harmoniously. They are worthy of veneration with joined palms. They are worthy of receiving prostration. They are a field of glorious merit. They are completely capable of receiving all gifts. They are an object of generosity. They are a great object of complete generosity. The protector who possesses great kindness, the omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and virtue, I prostrate to the Tathagata. Pure, the cause of freedom from passion. Virtuous, liberating from the lower realms. This alone is the supreme, ultimate truth. I prostrate to the Dharma, which is peace. Having been liberated, they show the path to liberation. They are fully dedicated to the disciplines. They are a holy field of merit and possess virtue. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha, the community. I prostrate respectfully and always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are inconceivable. The Sangha's virtues are inconceivable. Having faith in these inconceivables, therefore the fruitions are inconceivable. May they be born in a completely pure realm. And now further calls for the quick return of Rato Chenmo Rinpoche's Holiness as recommended, and we follow his recommendation. We're such good people, aren't we? Prayer for the flourishing J. Tsong-kha-pa's teachings. Oh, no, you're not coming up here, you guy. Excuse me while I herd cats. Get over here, you. Here. This is the guy causing all the trouble. Stay here. Though he's this prayer's on the website. Though he's the father, producer of all conquerors, as a conqueror's son, he produced the thought of upholding the conqueror's dharma in infinite worlds. Through this truth, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. When of yore in the presence of Buddha Indra Ketu, he made his vow, the conqueror and his offspring praised his powerful courage. Through this truth, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. That the lineage of pure view and conduct might spread, he offered a white crystal rosary to the sage, who gave him a conch and prophesied. Through this truth, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. His pure view free of eternity or destruction, his pure meditation cleansed of dark, fading, and fog, his pure conduct practiced according to the conqueror's orders, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Learned, since he extensively sought out learning, reverent, rightly applying it to himself, good, dedicating all for beings and the doctrine, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Through being sure that all scriptures, definitive and interpretive, were without contradiction, advice for one person's practice, he stopped all misconduct. May the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Listening to explanation of the three Pitakas, realized teachings, practice of the three trainings, his skilled and accomplished life story is amazing. May the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Outwardly calmed and subdued by the hearer's conduct, inwardly trusting in the two stages practice, he allied without clash the good paths of Sutra and Tantra. May the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Combining voidness, explained as the causal vehicle, with great bliss achieved by method, the effect vehicle, heart essence of 80,000 Dharma bundles. May the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. By the power of the ocean of oath-bound doctrine protectors, like the main guardians of the three beings' paths, the quick-acting Lord Vaishvarana Karma Yama, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. In short, by the lasting of glorious Gurus' lives, by the earth being full of good, learned, reverend holders of the teaching, and by the increase of power of its patrons, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. So are you aware of your awareness while you were saying these, or reciting the prayers, or listening to them? It's always there. Again, as they say, even when you're in defilement, it's there. You can't get rid of it. So that's very important to understand what this awareness is. That is our eternal mind. Okay. Excuse me. 8 verses on training of the mind by Tsong-kha-pa. Okay, let's do it nicely because we have 3 minutes, so we have plenty of time. With the determination to accomplish the highest welfare of all sentient beings who surpass even a wish-granting jewel, I will learn to hold them supremely dear. Whenever I associate with others, I will learn to think of myself as the lowest amongst all, and respectfully hold others to be supreme from the very depths of my heart. In all actions, I will learn to search into my mind, and as soon as a disturbing emotion arises, endangering myself and others, I will firmly face and avert it. I will learn to cherish ill-natured beings and those oppressed by strong misdeeds and sufferings, as if I had found a precious treasure difficult to find. When others, out of jealousy, treat me badly, with abuse, slander, and so on, that happens, I will learn to take all loss and offer the victory to them. When the one whom I have benefited with great hope unreasonably hurts me very badly, I will learn to view that person as an excellent spiritual guide. In short, I will learn to offer to everyone without exception all help and happiness directly and indirectly, and respectfully take upon myself all harm and suffering of my mothers. I will learn to keep all these practices undefiled by the stains of the 8 worldly concerns, and by understanding all phenomena as like illusions, be released from the bondage of attachment. So, this ends our tonight's presentation. Our next class will be a Tara practice at 1 o'clock this Saturday, the 25th. at 1 o'clock here in the parsonage in South Orange, New Jersey. Go to our website. The instructions are there on how to get here. Everyone is welcome. If you have awareness, you're welcome at the Tibets, and everyone has awareness. So that's that. Bring your Buddha nature. You have to. It's always with you. And the next Dharma class will be the following Monday, the 27th. We'll continue a little bit of the Korean presentation, but not much. And then we'll continue with the Lamrim and Geshe Sopa's commentary. So thank you very much for your very patient listening. I know this is hard, but try to latch onto the idea of this underlying awareness. Who's watching you as you watch your breath, or no matter what you're doing. So that's the eternal thing. That's the sublime continuum, our Buddha nature. The more it manifests, yeah, the better we are to see our true nature. Okay, thank you so much. Big love to all of you. Take care.